the year 2024 has come to an end, which means that I would love to recap all of the anime that I watched this year that was brand new to me and rank it from least favorite to favorite based on my own personal opinion. Before I get started, I wanted to explain that this is all just my opinion, my personal opinion, just a video that I want to do for fun and to recap all of the animes that I watched this year. I by no means hated any of these animes, so it was actually very hard for me to rank them. So don't take it as a personal attack if my least favorite is your favorite, things like that. It is all cool if you love something that I don't, and vice versa. I'm gonna have 3 different sections in this video. First, starting with the 12 brand new animes that I watched this year, all the way through from start to finish, even if the anime isn't completed yet and there's stuff to come in the future. So I will be talking about that first. Second, I will be talking about the 3 anime movies that I watched this year. And then lastly, I will be talking about the 3 animes that I continued watching. So animes that I have started watching years previously and continued because newer seasons came out this year. So starting off with the 12 animes that I saw brand new this year, I'm gonna pop them all on the screen and then kind of fill them in with color as we talk about them and as I number them. So starting in very last place, again, I no means hated this anime, and I have a very hard time saying the name of this anime, so please don't come for me. But my least favorite anime coming in 12th place this year is Dororo. First off, I am not a binge watcher. It's really hard for me to sit down and binge watch a show, which is exactly what I did for this show. My friends and I sat down together, which was so fun, and we binged this show. However, binging also just kind of puts a little bit of a hindrance in my mind for storytelling because I tend to get through the story so fast to where I can't fully comprehend everything that's happening. I don't always remember everything. I can't really appreciate the art and the story for why it was made. And so I tend to not binge watch because it almost ruins the experience for me. But then again, it's also really fun to sit down and with friends and do that. So it's a kind of 50-50 thing. But I think this is the main reason why this anime is so low on my list, is because I binge watched it. I really love the concept of this story. Everything, of course, with our main character and kind of getting the parts of his body back as we move through the anime was really, really interesting to me. I think another reason maybe why I didn't like it as much as others is because it's a little bit older. And I know we were watching kind of like the remade version of it, but there were still some parts that just weren't really in line with my like favorite genre type. There were some parts that made me feel uncomfortable, and so of course that also plays into why this is last on my list. But again, I did not hate this anime. The 2 main characters, in fact, I absolutely love their kind of relationship and bond. So all in all, this anime was fascinating to me. It was not hard to get through at all. It just falls short on my list. Coming in 11th place on my list is the case study of Vanitas. Now, I know this is not a super well-known anime, and I want to give a huge shout out to the art form. This anime had one of the best art styles, in my opinion, in comparison to all the anime that I saw this year. I thought that the shades they used of blue were absolutely gorgeous, and blue's my favorite color, so I'm a little bit biased. But I really, really love the art style. That was one of my favorite things about Vanitas. A shortcoming that I had for it mainly is that this is another anime that I binge watched with friends. And so of course, I know this anime again is not super long. There's only 1 season out right now, but my whole mentality with binge watching, I just don't remember a lot from this anime. It didn't really grasp me like other animes I saw this year, and due to me binge watching it, I just did not have a connection with it. There were elements of this anime too that made me feel uncomfortable, so there's also that. I will say that my favorite part of this anime was the second portion with Vanitas and Mikhail, which I'm actually gonna cosplay soon, which I'm very excited for. But really that was about all I enjoyed about this anime, and maybe if I rewatched it and watched season 2, I would end up liking it more, but it just kind of fell short for me. Coming in 10th place on our list is Hell's Paradise. This is actually the most recent anime that I watched this year. I literally finished it last night so I could include it in this video. This is another anime that I just didn't really fall in love with. It was very gory, which it kind of sickened me a little at times. I'm not really much for like super gore, which this did have a lot of like blood and other things in it that I wasn't really a fan of. Again, with things that make me feel uncomfortable, this anime did have things that made me feel uncomfortable that I kind of had to like look away at times, and I was irritated with the cliffhanger that it ended off on. I thought that the ending was a super weird spot for season 1 to end. Now, I haven't read the manga, but usually like seasons end with like a huge bang, and the end of this season, I'm not gonna spoil it, but like it just kind of left you wondering about something that like had been prevalent the entire time, and then you're just kind of like, wait, that's not actually how it is. And like it just kind of threw me off in a really annoying way, and there wasn't really like a bunch of like action that normally like an end of a season would have. I don't know, it just kind of irritated me. Although the positives I will say about this story, I love our two main characters and the bond that kind of formed between the two of them and throughout their time together on this journey that they had together. I really like the concept of these criminals being sent to this place that's basically hell, but it's like a paradise. And we see that through these creatures that are there and the flowers that bloom through kind of like dead and the regrowth and the rebirth and regeneration. Like it's all very interesting, but it's not fully fleshed out yet. And so I have to continue the story, which I'll totally do for Hell's Paradise. I definitely want to see where it goes. All in all, this was an okay anime, but not my favorite. Coming in 9th place is Blue Lock. I will start off by saying that sports are not my thing at all. I really don't like watching sports. I never thought I would watch a sports anime, and literally the only reason why I did watch this show is because at the beginning of the year, I was asked to join a cosplay group to cosplay Rin, which is the character who is voiced by Koki Uchiyama, one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. So I watched season 1, I did the cosplay group, and of course I had to finish up season 2, which came out literally a couple days ago. The only other sports anime I've seen is Yuri on Ice, which I watched last year and really enjoyed. I tried Haikyuu this year, and I just couldn't get into it after the first like 7 episodes. I instantly kind of really liked Blue Lock from the start. I thought it was set up very different. It wasn't just playing games back and forth. I don't know how typical sports animes go because I'm not familiar, but Blue Lock is very dramatic. I feel like that's probably typical for sports animes because that of course is like their passion, their drive, so of course it's going to be a bit dramatic at times. I did appreciate how each of the players had a different kind of ability that wasn't like a magic power, but something that could be real in like our world, but then obviously taken a little step further for the show of like anime and the enjoyment of the story. I really love fleshing out all of the characters. I think they did a really good job with that. And of course, I love seeing more of Rin and his brother in this new season. But again, this anime wasn't like my favorite thing in the world, and I don't really think sports animes would be just because of my particular taste in storylines. I'm also just not a big sports fan in real life. So that's why I give this kind of lower on my list, but I still really love the anime. Coming in 8th place on my list is Solo Leveling. I really ended up enjoying Solo Leveling. I was not expecting to as much as I was, but I really love the video game element of it, of kind of this real life world and then switching into a video game almost, but it's like connected with the real world. I found a lot of the character abilities to be really cool and all of the kind of like Easter eggs and drawbacks to video games that I love. Something I was thinking about the whole time is the connections that I drew to The Legend of Zelda, which is my favorite video game. And so I just really enjoyed this anime. I'm really excited to see season 2 and to read the manga, which I recently picked up. I feel like the pacing of this anime is really well done. There are good characters. We're fleshing out our main character, of course, with his really unique abilities. And just all in all, I'm excited to continue. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world. Then again, like video game kind of sci-fi-ish isn't my favorite genre. My favorite is fantasy fiction, which is kind of where my top animes lie for my ranking this year, of course, just because that's my personal favorite. But I will say that I'm very excited to continue to the next season, and that cliffhanger was really good, and I'm excited to learn more about where it brings our main character. Coming in 7th place on my anime ranking list is Your Lie in April. This is a genre that I don't watch a ton of anime for, and so I'm very surprised that it's about halfway down my list. I would have expected it to be a little bit lower, especially because this is another anime that I binge watched. Although I feel like this anime being kind of just a slice of life type thing compared to the kind of fantasy of the case study of Vanitas and Dororo is very different feeling. There's a lot less that I'd have to kind of focus on. The world building is simpler. There's not like abilities and magic and things. And so I felt like this story stuck with me a lot better, even though I binge watched it. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but what I will say is, of course, this is a very emotional story, and I think that everyone can really connect to it in their own special ways, and I, for one, definitely connected with this story in a very personal way, which I'm not gonna talk about, but it made me very emotional, and by the end of the story, I was just kind of left sobbing with two of my friends that I was binge watching it with, and it's just a really beautiful story about life and how easily life can be taken from you in multiple different ways. Whether that person is still alive or not, people can be taken from you. And I think that this story depicted it in a really beautiful and heart-wrenching and emotional way. I also really love the tie-in with the violin and the piano. Those are two of my favorite instruments, and I've never really watched an instrument-heavy anime before, but I thought the connection to that and like the beauty of music and that art style was really beautiful. Your Lie in April is definitely an anime that will stick with me for a while, but it's also not one that I would like to rewatch 1,000 times because of how emotional it is. If you know, you know.
Hello, so editing Jenna here to tell you that I just realized as I was editing this video, I forgot to talk about an entire anime that I watched this year. That being Kaiju number 8. This is so embarrassing. Oh well, I guess I forgot it because it would have fallen last on my list. If you want to hear a full description of my thoughts about Kaiju number 8, feel free to check out the video up here. But with that, let's get back to the ranking.
We're halfway through this list, and coming in 6th place on my anime ranking list is Buddy Daddies. Now again, I'm not really a slice of life type anime watcher, but I loved this anime. Honestly, it was just a different take on another anime I love so dearly, which is Spy Family, but it's about these two guys trying to have this girl in their family. I think something that's really beautiful about this story too is that it's summed up literally in just 12 episodes. It's super concise, the pacing is perfect, we get amazing character development for our 3 main characters. It's wholesome, it's pure, it's beautiful, it's about family and connections and relationships, and it's just all the good feels. It's also funny at times, it's sad at times. It's an anime that made me cry. Actually, the rest of these animes that are on my list made me cry. Ever since Your Lie in April, basically all the animes that I'm about to talk about made me cry. But all in all, Buddy Daddies was a huge, huge win for me. And of course, Rei, one of the main characters, is voiced by Koki Uchiyama, one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. So that was a treat for me as well. Coming in 5th place is Soul Eater, another anime where the main character is voiced by Koki Uchiyama. This is actually the very first anime that I watched this year. I watched it in December of last year and then finished it, I believe, February of this year. So it was very kind of like Christmassy when I watched this anime, which was weird because it is such like fall Halloween vibes, but I loved this anime. I loved our main kids that we got to follow, our weapons and our meisters. I thought that that kind of connection was so cool and so different than any other story I've seen before, where they have to attend this school and they have to kind of create these bonds and these connections with other students and kind of just make a match of weapon and meister. I really love animes that have lots of different characters and lots of different backstories and connections and bonds, and so this anime was perfect for me. I loved the just overall vibes of it. It's a very dark anime, but also like very lighthearted at the same time because we're following this group of kids. I have not read the manga yet, but I would like to, because I know that the ending of the manga is very different than the ending of the anime, which in the anime I did enjoy the ending for. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world. I don't think it was super solid, but it still got me emotional and I enjoyed it. But I am curious to read what the manga has to share. And just as a whole, I really enjoyed this anime. I have a video talking about my full kind of discussion about all my thoughts. So if you wanted to watch that, check up above. Coming in fourth place on my ranking is Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I absolutely adored this anime. I absolutely love the kind of big picture of the beauty of life. Again, very similar to my reasoning for Your Lie in April, but for Frieren, it's very fantastical. Of course, it's fantasy genre. And so we get to follow this elf, Frieren, who has people from her past that she loves and is kind of coming to terms with the adventures that they had together, and then, of course, their death, and then living in the present with the people that she is currently with on a new adventure. I absolutely adore Frieren and Himmel. They are probably one of my favorite ships out of anything I've seen this year in anime. I just love them with all my heart so much. I will say that Frieren took me a little bit to fully get hooked on. I think it was around episodes 7 to 8-ish during like the demon arc. And then of course when we met Stark that I really got hooked onto it. And it kind of just became like a very chill anime to just sit down at the end of the day and watch an episode or two. Very like pure, innocent, just like beautiful. I think the art style is gorgeous, very like light colors then mixed with the magic abilities that they have. It felt very D&D to me in this very kind of like medievalish world where we have elves and dwarves and demons and all these different kinds of species, including humans and things like that. And so Frieren has to have a very high spot on my list of favorite animes this year. We have made it to the top 3 animes on my list. Coming in third, I never thought I would say this, but my third favorite is Vinland Saga. Going into this anime, I did not think I would enjoy it. I don't really like Vikings. It's just not my thing. I don't really care for like big burly men with their weapons taking out people. Like, I'm just like, that's not for me. And I will say that season 1 of Vinland Saga, I was like, I don't know if I like this. Like, it wasn't until maybe the last 2 episodes of the first season where I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then something happened and I was like, seriously? Like, where is season 2 gonna go after that drop? And after I watched season 2, I just kind of reflected on everything I had seen and realized just how beautiful of a message Vinland Saga has. There were many messages that I gathered from Vinland Saga, and of course I'm so excited to move on with the story. I recently got like the whole manga series for Christmas, which I'm excited to just sit down and enjoy the rest of the story for. But one of the main things I love about Vinland Saga is that there's this sense of like rebirth and this growth. And so if you're this person who you just really don't want to be, or maybe you don't realize you're being someone that is so harvested on hate and rage, but then one day you realize, you know what, I can be better and I can make the world better by being my true self. I just love this message that Thorfinn is continually growing throughout the story of Vinland Saga, of this rebirth that he's had. And I just think it's so beautiful, and coming from someone who like is so low in the beginning of their story and then gradually becoming higher and higher. And I don't mean like in riches or like as a king or anything, but just as like a person becoming such a wholesome and beautiful soul. And I just really loved seeing the kind of sacrifice that went into that with Thorfinn, and kind of all of that rage and hate that he lost from season 1, and kind of being reborn into this new person. And of course he had help from others along the way. Vinland Saga season 2 especially made me cry. I could gush about it forever because I really love Vinland Saga. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts, feel free to check out the full video above. Coming in second place is Hunter x Hunter. This is one of the more previous animes that I finished, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved how each of the seasons is kind of just this brand new story, but following the same characters. Of course, we have Gon and Killua the whole time, accompanied by Leorio and Kurapika sometimes, and the flushing out of like all these characters is just so good. It reminded me of My Hero Academia in a way, where we just have so many characters to just love. I think something I really enjoyed about Hunter x Hunter, Gon, our main character, his whole goal is to find his dad. But we aren't really reminded like every single episode, like, oh, I need to find my dad, I need to do this, I need to do this. It's not very like prevalent. It's always in the background of like the main adventure or the task that they're trying to get done. And I feel like that was very much appreciated, because I feel like in other stories, the main characters are so like hell-bent on like their goal that it just kind of like takes over and becomes annoying. But for Hunter x Hunter, that was always like the background goal. And I felt like I was just living in the moment of the next adventure with Gon and his friends. I want to give a special shout out to the Chimera Ant arc. That arc is so good, and honestly, probably one of my favorite things I saw in anime this year. But again, if you want to hear my full thoughts on Hunter x Hunter, please click the video above to check out that. Coming in first place, so exciting, is Black Clover. This anime is very, very special to me. For one, I absolutely love the art style. Again, felt very much like My Hero to me and Hunter x Hunter, where we get so much time with all of these characters that are so heavily bonded. Kind of this school system that My Hero has, and the fun magical abilities that each of the characters has. I will say that the distinction of like arcs and seasons for Black Clover was a little bit confusing, whereas like I appreciated Hunter x Hunter especially because they felt so distinct, whereas Black Clover I felt like just kind of blended all together. But again, that could be a good thing. It kind of played out as this whole movie, and I just absolutely love the story as a whole. And of course, this story is not finished yet, and so I'm so excited to learn more in the future of this anime. I want to give a special shout out to William Vengeance, my favorite character. I cosplayed him this year, and I'm just so proud of the cosplay I made for this character. And when I watched it, I was like really sick for like a whole month. I had just multiple different sicknesses going on, and I was basically just in bed for like a month. And so I got through so much Black Clover with my partner, and we just enjoyed watching it together. And it just made me feel so happy when I couldn't really do anything else. And so I think that's another reason why Black Clover just holds a very special place in my heart. That is going to wrap it up for the 12 new animes that I saw this year. I would love to hear in the comments if you have seen any of these animes, or if you had a top 3 that you watched this year. I would love to know in the comments down below. Next up, I'm going to talk about the 3 movies that I saw this year and rank them. Now, I'm not really a moviegoer. I don't watch a ton of movies, so that's why there's literally just 3 on my list that I watched this year. But coming in third and last place is Princess Mononoke. Now, I absolutely love nature, wildlife. That's literally my career path, and I loved that about Princess Mononoke. I loved the art style, the music, the whole storyline. The ending made me cry with the tie-in of nature and everything. There wasn't much I disliked about this movie, but comparing it to Spy Family and My Hero Academia, that is unfortunately why it falls last on my list of movies. Coming in second place is Spy Family, their new movie Code White. I love this movie, and I saw it in the theater with my partner, and honestly, it was so funny and so emotional at the same time. Like, I was happy crying, I was laughing. We got a really solid story of Lloyd, Yor, and Anya, which I just absolutely love. Like, I love those 3 so much, and seeing season 2 of Spy Family this year come out was also very special. But I think the movie in particular held more of a special place in my heart because of just the movie atmosphere of it all. It was so flushed out. We got some amazing scenes of Yor fighting, which I always want to see more of, more flushing out of her story. We got to see Lloyd, and of course Anya just being the cutest ever. It was just all around such good feel vibes, and I would love to see that movie again. Coming in first place for my movies I watched this year is of course My Hero Academia, You're Next. I have a full video talking about my thoughts if you wanted to watch that up here, but briefly I did just want to say that I super enjoyed this movie. Again, I watched this in the movie theater with my partner. All of the new quirks, seeing our favorite characters come back on the screen with of course a new mission and this Dark Might and this whole new cast of villains was so fun. This movie was also just a little extra special to me because at Anime Expo this year, we got to see 4 of the voice actors from this movie. We got to see Daiki, the voice of Deku, another one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. We got to see All Might, and then of course Julio and Anna, which Julio's voice actor Mamo is another one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. And at Anime Expo, if you've seen my videos, I actually got to see the first 15 minutes of this movie for the very first showing in the world at Anime Expo with those voice actors. And so again, this movie was just so special to me. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the 3 animes that I continued watching this year. So coming in 3rd place is our 2nd season of Spy Family. Again, I adore Spy Family with all of my heart. I feel like season 2 started off with a lot of filler technically. I don't really mind filler because of course we're still getting like fun content with the characters we love. Although I think I did enjoy the second half of it more. I really enjoyed the whole cruise part, which this season was cool because I actually got to read the manga before the season came out. And that was my first time doing that with Spy Family. And so that was kind of a brand new fun thing I did for that. Coming in 2nd place is the new season of Demon Slayer, the Hashira training arc. All in all, I found this season to be really fun. Of course, we got to see all of the Hashira and their training, which was so fun. I absolutely loved seeing that. Of course, this was a training arc, and so it fell a little bit short for me. However, that ending was amazing. You know, if you know everything that happened at the end of that season, those last 2 episodes in particular, absolutely mind-blowing. And I am so excited to see what is to come for Demon Slayer. Of course, I have read all the manga, so I am just so excited and so emotional to see where the story goes from here in the movies that are gonna come out next. And of course, coming in 1st place for animes that I continued watching this year is My Hero Academia Season 7. I hate to say it, but we are coming to the end of the story of My Hero Academia. You might know that the mangas have finished and we are getting our last season next year, which I know has gotten so many people emotional. This is a huge core of just anime as a whole is My Hero Academia, and so for it to end is very like sad, but also just happy to have such a completed, beautiful piece of art. But going back to this season, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really want to rewatch it all in one go because it felt so movie-like with all of the fight scenes. The way they went back and forth was absolutely perfect. The way that they kind of changed it up from what the manga showed. They did a really good job. Everything with Deku and Shigaraki, my 2 favorite characters in My Hero Academia. Got me so emotional. I cried so many times in this season of My Hero. It just meant a lot to me. I love My Hero Academia so much. It's one of my favorite animes that I've ever seen. This was also my first time being fully caught up to My Hero to where I could watch the season as it was coming out. So that was really exciting for me since I watched My Hero for the first time last year. So I finally got to catch up and watch season 7 with the rest of the world, which was really fun. That is going to wrap it up for all the anime I saw in 2024. I would love to hear in the comments if you had any favorite anime movies that you watched this year or just favorite animes in general. I have another video coming out that is going to be talking about all of these animes that I watched in 2024, and it's gonna be a very fun style of my own version of anime awards, just a quick award ceremony for all of the animes that I watched this year. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!